Folks, the rise of mental health struggles among young black youth is becoming a growing part of everyday conversation, and it could be impacting someone close to you. A recent report from the Acoma Project, a nonprofit focused on supporting the mental health needs of young people of color, reveals some alarming stats. More than 40% of black youth ages 13 to 17 seriously considered suicide in the past year. 38% reported engaging in self-harm. More than 16% actually attempted suicide at least once. Joining us now is Dr. Tatiana Melendez, a licensed psychotherapist and advocate for youth mental health. Doc, glad to see you again. I reached out to you because...
How are you?
Doing great. I reached out to you because someone I know, a friend, had to deal with this. She had a relative, and her relative's daughter took her life, 19 years old. And she said she and the family just totally devastated. I know several other folks, the same thing. And so for the longest, there was a huge gap between suicide rates among white youth and black youth. What the hell happened?
I mean, I think we can look at a few things here. You know, some of the statistics you mentioned, as I kind of did a little bit of my own research just to kind of get an update, you know, it rose, I think, by 144%, which is the sharpest increase across all racial, ethnic groups. And I think when you look at like the contributing factors, there's a lot of things. There's this growing crisis, and despite this historical misconception, the rates have soared. That's just what it is in the last 2 decades. And when you look at systemic inequalities, you have stigma, you have this under resource of mental health infrastructure. It all plays a role. And so I think if we can move into a space where we have culturally responsive, peer-led strategies, maybe more community-driven advocacy, accessible crisis support, we can definitely shift the narratives. But if we look back, in the 1990s, suicide was more common in adults. You see it now in young youth, children, and especially black youth. And so I think with social media is one of the big ones. I just like it, but it's there, it's out there, and we just have to figure out what we can do with it.
One of the things that that we looked at here, this is the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, says exposure to racism on social media and acute suicide risk in adolescents of color results from an intensive monitoring study. Now, the reason I pulled this up here is because you talked about social media. And I think it's very hard for baby boomers or even Gen X to understand that when we talk about millennials, Generation Z, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, you're literally talking about people who were born into a social media world. Mm-hmm. So we can sit here, I see the memes, we talk about, don't mess with nobody in Gen X because they way tougher than you can think because we were latchkey kids. They talk about the rotary phones, the stuff, all the stuff that we dealt with when we were kids. But you're talking about kids who are completely inundated from the moment they are born. You got 2 and 3 year olds who know how to navigate iPads and who can order stuff from Amazon. So now when you start talking about all the images, whether we're talking about weight and hair and color and race, all these different things, it is a different psychological attack than, frankly, what we had to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll tell you, when I was growing up, I didn't have social media. And so one of the things I made sure I put in place for my daughter, I didn't allow her to watch TV until she was maybe 5 or 6 years old. And social media was definitely off limits. And so I think now with the parents, they lack either the education or the empathy or just real conversations. These parents didn't grow up with the tools. So the emotional and identity related impacts are often just misunderstood or even minimized. So you have these kids, they're looking for the likes, they're looking for the followers. And all this is doing is teaching kids to equate self-worth with validation and all these external approvals. I mean, now my daughter was showing me you have like filters and all these face, I guess, application. All that does is just contribute to now we have body image issues.
Right.
You have, especially for our young girls. And my daughter did at some point, I remember her ninth grade year, because all the girls was on social media and she just started using social media and she thought that she was too thin. And that was an issue for about 6 months. And she's a beautiful girl. However, the girls are being affected. The LGBTQ plus community has been affected along with the youth. But if you have all this, hey, I need to get a like, I need to get the followers, I'm going to change the way I look, that's going to create or give us another layer of issues. But another thing I looked at too was I noticed like a lot of viral challenges and peer pressure. I mean, these kids today, the whole fear of missing out, FOMO, they feel like they need to do all these different things to fit in. That's creating a bigger issue. The constant scrolling and looking for who's online, who's not, all that does is just reduce attention span and increases anxiety, which isn't really helpful either. You have the DMs, you have the harassment, you have the cyberbullying. All of this leads to depression, isolation, and suicidal thoughts.
Well, you talked about the cyberbullying. So, I mean, look, we all can remember if you were dealing with bullying, you were dealing with bullying between school hours or whether you were on the bus going or coming. Now with social media, you literally have bullying 24 hours a day. And it's not just you and 3 or 4 other people who maybe in the class watching. It's literally now thousands upon thousands all around the country or the world.
All day. Yes, that is the issue. The social media applications are available at kids' youth fingertips. All day. They're at school looking at this stuff. So just imagine a kid every day wondering if they have followers. Okay, I don't have any followers today. Maybe people don't like me. They don't see me. I'm not beautiful. Maybe I do need to change my image. And, let me keep up with all the challenges.
And this is not even just, I think people understand, this ain't just kids. You have college coaches,
yes,
high school coaches who are like, get your ass off your phones at halftime. Mm-hmm. You've had players, even some NFL players, responding to somebody's comment on social media and during a head, like, you playing a professional sport, get your ass off social media. But again, it is such a psychological driver. And like, I love these people. This is really from the MAGA people. Look at that, you're getting ratioed. Look at that, you posted and you only got 18 retweets. And I'm like, you got to be a dumbass to start counting retweets. But again, that's that whole thing. And then, so now imagine it's just constantly coming down on you and it's everywhere. And literally, yes, that phone from the moment they wake up to the moment they sleep. And I know some parents, we've done that, where snatch the phone. No. Phone's in the room.
Yeah.
They're going to stay right here until it's time to go to school. And it's like crack addicts. It's like,
and this is the space, with social media, when I look at like some of the barriers or things that can actually be done to help with the increase in suicidal ideation, you would think that we would be utilizing or leveraging social media for the good, right? How about we follow and share more of like the positive mental health pages? How can we encourage, the real storytelling and not just highlighting all these reels that are very toxic? And what can we actually do to call out some of this bullying and support kids who are actually struggling online? But this online interaction is very, very toxic. And we're going to continue to see an increase in suicidal ideation, or suicide is going to continue the way it is.
To the folks, if y'all have not seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, folks, watch that. It literally talks about how the algorithm is programmed to do the very thing Dr. Melendez was talking about in terms of it's like the moment it feeds into it. And so now how you look in your hair and how you talk in your teeth and I need the fillers and I need this and I need this, and it goes just on and on and on. and it's impacting people right here. And I don't think that we can overestimate just how harmful it is when it's not being controlled. Greg Carr, I want to go to you first. You're a university professor. You see this. You're seeing this in the classroom, and just talk about your experiences in terms of how you've had to navigate this.
Well, Roland, first of all, thank you for having this conversation. And Sister Melendez, thank you for your work and for leading us in this conversation. I can tell you, brother, and I think I can comfortably speak for all of my colleagues, and I know one of them, of course, is right here, Dr. Haynes, Sister Nola. It's been a complete transformation in the classroom. I think COVID accelerated a process that had already started with this technology transfer. But I'll tell you what, though, and maybe this is where I'll stop and I ask you a question about this, Sister Melendez. With the quantum leap past social media to Chat GPT, I have been stunned, even as recently as we just finished summer school at Howard, listening to young people, some of whom have talked about their friends, which I take as a proxy for some of them, using Chat GPT as a therapist. Uh, Interacting with artificial intelligence as if it's human. And we remember the movie a few years ago, Her, where Scarlett Johansson voiced the artificial intelligence, and this man fell in love basically with himself. But when you compound what happened with the disruption in education, FaceTime, face to face with COVID, and the acceleration in the technology and social media, and then you drop that AI in, I am not surprised by this really disaster that we have seen not only form, because these young people are struggling, and at this point, they're literally talking to themselves and looking for solutions. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, but I'd be very fascinated. I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say, Sister Melendez, about this particular function of AI.
That is so interesting because yes, I do think that COVID-19, there's all these long-term impacts. We look at like isolation. I do think there was a lot of missed milestones. There was, the grief and family loss. Definitely, even for me, just been a mental health professional, there was a mental health system overload where it literally widened the gap between the need and support. And so this whole AI, it's something that I'm actually learning about. My daughter just was teaching me last week. She was actually asking AI questions and this lady just kept responding. So it is new to me. And I mean, it was anything like, how do I need to tell my friend, that she shouldn't be sleeping unprotected? And it literally gave her a whole narrative of like what she can say. And so for me, this is new. I would be interested in learning more about it. But again, I think it's great. And even though we have that, I do think when we look at Black people in particular, there's still this unique, profound set of obstacles. So we can have the AI, but then there's still the stigma, there's the shame, there's this emotional distress that goes unspoken. And I do think that, we still need to have therapy, because it's one of the things that actually, help. You still have the financial and systemic, barriers that come up, all the high costs. I try to offer low cost therapy as much as possible, but then you have transportation issues. You have a long wait because we can't see everyone, and so I do think the AI is great. I just want to make sure that we're not moving away from like traditional therapy, especially because AI, we don't know how intelligent it is or what they're actually going to be telling clients. And so, I just want to make sure that because there's a culture of mistrust, we want to make sure that, clients are able to trust the mental health system, but we need something that's in place that actually works.
Absolutely. Nola, you're in the classroom as well. So again, what we are seeing young folks today who are experiencing classmates taking their own lives, and they're dealing with, in inner cities, dealing with a level of debt that we never ever saw as well. So all of this stuff is compounded. Go right ahead, Nola.
Absolutely. And again, I want to thank you both the way that Greg did for talking about this. Additionally, there's also a lot of awareness that's happening around sex trafficking in the Black community today, actually. So I'm happy that people are talking about these issues that are typically taboo and left in the vault, right? And in the community vault, right? But one of the things that I see in my classroom, my students will pay attention because I still old school lecture. But it's the conversations that you hear when they're settling into class and when they're leaving class. And it typically is some level of insecurity that they're grappling with. And one of the things that this takes me to is the Dahl test and Brown v. Board. And it takes me there because I wonder, is there some way to be able to measure or to be able to kind of like locate the effects that this is having on young kids before they get to suicide? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there some sort of preventative measure that can happen so we can catch this before the insecurities just grow in so many different directions that there's just nothing left to do, because their entire lives are not only recorded, but they're scored. I grew up as a zillennial, where men have their scorekeeping and women, we have our scorekeeping, but these kids are literally score kept on every facet of their lives. Are there some sort of preventative measures that your community, Dr. Melendez, is talking about to try to help before the suicide part? Is there some sort of social scientific test that can kind of measure some of this to kind of give answers? Those are the things that I'm thinking about.
That it's, when you first meet a client, you complete something called a biopsychosocial, and this really helps locate and prevent suicide. So you're asking the questions to determine early risk factors, right? And once you can locate that root cause analysis if needed, you then implement some preventive strategies to address the root cause of the emotional distress. Because if there's no root cause analysis to see where some of this is stemming from, then we can't really address the issue to even provide the coping skills or mechanisms for them to even be able to function in society. So I think when you're able to locate the insecurity, which are, I guess we can label as maybe the risk factors, these are all warning signs. You see it, the insecurities, the vulnerability to suicide can then actually be detected. So if it's psychological insecurity, is there low self-esteem? Is there hopelessness? Is there chronic self-doubt, which I see a lot of? You have the
Material insecurity.
Yes, perfectionism. I mean, I see kids and adults struggle with perfectionism. I mean, I even had some, struggle with that at some point. But then you have the fear of failure. But then you have social insecurity. You have digital insecurity. There's environmental. So if you're exposed to violence and trauma, that's part of your environment. What you're exposed to, if it's abuse, if it's unstable housing or food, if it's academic or financial stress. So it just depends. If we're looking at digital, then we may be looking at maybe exposure to cyberbullying or harmful online content. So it just depends. And you won't be able to determine that until you actually meet with a client to understand, hey, maybe there's some verbal or behavioral signs. Is this person talking about death? Is this person feeling like maybe they're a burden to another person? And then you'll start seeing those signs, those red flags where this person is withdrawing from another person. They're losing interest in maybe some activities. I mean, you start seeing people give away possessions. They're writing about death. And so it's all about getting them into the room, getting them on the phone, getting them on a call, and talking and having real conversations.
I have a quick follow-up, and I've been getting for Roland.
Girl, you know doggone well, Michael is sitting there waiting to ask a question. So you need to wait your turn. No, see, let me teach you something, Nola. You might be all your little foreign policy stuff. So let me explain you how we journalists do it. We say, I have a question and a follow-up.
Well, I did say follow up.
No, you did.
Twice.
No, you did. No, you did it after the question. Michael, go ahead with your question. Nola gotta wait.
So, Nola, I'll give you some of my time, so I'll be very quick.
No, you can't do that. Only the timekeeper can do that. Go. Ask your question, Michael.
I have 3 sons. and a niece that I'm extremely close to. I'm trying to figure out, do you see a difference with the social media with males and females relative to impact? And I asked that in the context of, no, they're not the same age, but I asked that in the context of my niece seemed to have a larger issue after COVID than my sons did. So I was wondering if there's a gender issue both with social media and related to COVID.
With COVID, I saw both male and female. I do think there was, I did see more females. I think with the psychological effects, it was more of the body image issues in comparison. I didn't really see where my males were struggling with the body image because the girls, the women are doing all the filters, the influencers, the unrealistic, standards. I also saw where females, it was more anxiety, more depression, more self-esteem, but they also was experiencing more of the cyberbullying because it had to do with the appearance and maybe social belonging. So it was this like a pretty girl syndrome. Be smart, be beautiful, be kind, be social. I found more of that with the girls. And then if you did show yourself in a bathing suit, then you had like the slut shaming that followed that. So they're like, okay, let me show myself, let me be beautiful, but then on the back end, it's like you're being sexualized or the slut shaming comes in. And this was happening mainly with my Black and Latina girls. But then you do have the males, the humor, the politics, the sports, the debates. It created some engagement, but I also think that it created more exposure to maybe toxic masculinity. It encouraged the guys, hey, I need to be more dominant. And all they were doing was just avoiding the vulnerability part of it. So that risk of maybe emotional suppression, I saw more with males, which then of course led to more aggression. So when these clients would come, it's like, you have all this internalized depression. What is going on here? So I think those are the main two things, male versus female.
Well, I think what you also are dealing with is you also have these expectations. A young lady who I think was Miss USA or Miss America, I forgot, who jumped from a building in New York City, was an amazing lawyer, it was accomplished, and it was like it was never enough. And I think when I look at a lot, you have a lot of young folks and like they're just neurotic about because you got folks like, no, you got to get that scholarship, you got to have straight A's, and you got to be perfect at this and this and this and this, and then it's become one after another, and it's an enormous amount of pressure. I remember I was sitting talking to one of my nieces, and she was just like, oh my God, I got to do this at our school. I was like, girl, calm down. I said that shit is a sheet of paper. I said, okay. And it was like this desire to, okay, but magna cum laude, I got to have straight A's. I was like, let me explain something to you. I said, it's a whole bunch of people I graduated with who had magna cum laude, and I ain't got nothing against that. I said, but they broke as hell right now, and your uncle wasn't no magna cum laude, and trust me, they would switch places with me any day of the week. And I was trying to get her to understand that your success in life is not going to be determined by what you do in that moment. And we've seen this. We've seen young people who are highly accomplished and it's never enough. And you have parents and others and it's constant pressure and no, you gotta be great at it. And a lot of times I'm with some of these parents like, yo, I need y'all to relax. I'm like, y'all, and I just think you have to be very mindful as a parent, as an aunt or an uncle, putting undue pressure on somebody who's 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, whether it's in a classroom or sports, because, again, you are literally affecting that psyche, and everybody is not built the same way. That's for you, Doc.
No, for sure. I think this, the undue pressure on children, adolescents definitely contributes to suicide risk, especially when you have kids feeling overwhelmed or unsupported, or they believe their failure equals worthlessness, and so I've seen it, the academic pressure. You're right, the high expectation. Oh, I have to get the perfect grades. I need to attend the elite schools. I saw with my daughter, she just went through the application process. And even though she has great grades, she's like, hey, this person, or they end up going to this school that was more elite. And I said, hey, look, let's not worry about that. I'm not going to be disappointed. I mean, she applied to, I think, 18 schools and basically got into all of them, but still that chronic stress, that burnout, that anxiety, the feelings of failure is all a result of academic pressure, the social pressure, needing to be popular, needing to be liked, needing to be on social media. I need to belong. I need to be in the right friend group. I need this identity click. And so my daughter went to a school where there's a lot of celebrity kids. And I mean, she's not a celebrity kid, but it resulted in possibly, at times, it was mainly early in like maybe her 7th or 8th grade year, there was a little social anxiety. And all of a sudden by her 8th grade year, she said, I don't want to go out for lunch. What do you mean you don't want to go out for lunch? She was sitting in the library. She was isolating. And I'm like, okay, what is it that I need to do? And I definitely didn't want to put the parental pressure, because I do see that where you have parents who are overly involved. They have these unrealistic expectations for their kids. And sometimes it's sports, it's a family reputation.
Oh, especially the sports thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
I've seen it. And at her school where she goes, that was huge.
And just sometimes you got to be honest. Your kid can't play.
Right. No,
So
the pressure is
just be happy they ass got a uniform. But stop. I'm serious. I just think that I don't know why we sit here and like we don't want to be honest. Some kids can't play sports. Just be on the team, run around, do the whole teamwork, but your ass will not be starting.
No, and that was a huge one at her school. But again,
what's wrong, Michael? What?
It was huge.
Like then, I don't get it. I don't get why we can't be honest. And sometimes, Doc, we gotta tell brothers or sisters or aunts or uncles, I need to sit your ass down. Your kid is. There was a word we used growing up. Let's see if Nola probably don't remember this down in New Orleans. But Michael, I know you and Greg. Do y'all remember the word afflicted?
Afflicted.
Afflicted.
Short for afflicted.
Right. The word was afflicted. We use that word, Doc, for everything. If your kid couldn't dance, if your kid couldn't play sports, your kid is afflicted. Sometimes we just got to go ahead and let folks know, I think you putting a little too much pressure. That kid is not going to be great at that. So stop trying to make them something they not, because that's just a level of pressure. Not going.
No, I mean, no, when you look at the psychological consequences with parental pressure, we're creating kids who are being raised dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with the depression. They're constantly feeling like they're a failure. They're dealing with the perfectionism. Any little mistake that these kids are making, they are feeling unloved and disposable. And now what they're doing is dealing with emotional suppression. There's no safe outlet for them to even talk or cry. Why? Because they can't go to their parents, and maybe they may not have insurance to even go talk to a therapist. So now you have suicidal ideation. I'm feeling like death is the only escape from whatever pressure that I'm feeling at this point.
All right, Nola, come on. Make your question quick. A question, not a statement, a question. Not a sermonette, a question.
I did very well in English. Thank you so much for that, for walking me through that.
See,
thank you.
You wasted time. You do this every time. You try to be petty, and then you waste time. Now, come on, ask your question.
You mean match your petty? You mean match your petty?
See, you wasting time. Don't let me thank Doc and close this out. Come on now.
Do
ask your question.
Do what you want to do. My question is everything that you just said about cost and availability and all these things. I guess what I'm trying to get at is there some larger social test that can be constructed like the doll test? If to be able to catch this in other ways outside of students, coming to an office, considering everything that's being rolled back, with insurance is going to be more expensive, like all the things that are happening. I'm just trying to figure out what could possibly be a social cultural way to be able to catch this, if you don't have the money to pay you or the time or the availability. I'm just curious, is there something out there? Is there a tool out there that already exists like that?
I mean, outside of your digital and clinical risk screening tools that a lot of therapists and psychologists use, you have your PHQ-9, which looks at suicide risk, and it's used for depression, suicidal ideation. And it's online. People can go and check and say, okay, here's a free screening tool for me to be able to use. But there isn't anything else that's really free. There's a lot of, they have all these quizzes and tests that you can take. I mean, I'm in the process of actually building an application that will be done real soon here. And it's basically, yes, mental health services at your fingertips, where you can sign in and be able to speak to a therapist. You can participate in live conversations about different mental health concerns or issues. So that's in the making. So there's different strengths.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, you have the SVQ, I think, which looks at, it's short, it's a few questions. But I will tell you the challenge that I'm seeing. I was just working with a group of kids. They can't read. So even if they self-administer this test for themselves, you give it to them and say, hey, answer these questions, these kids could not read.
Hell no.
So I had to have someone reach out to these kids, actually ask the questions every 2 weeks to keep up with where they are with their emotions and feelings. So that's an issue in the Black and brown community. It's huge. They cannot read, but they're on social media. So.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, it has nothing to do with this particular issue, but my greatest fundamental issue that I have with 2 or 3 generations is the inability to think. And I think part of this thing, Doc, as you were talking about, how do we communicate? I think there's so many people who are parents who want to give the answer, where I'm a firm believer, no, I'm going to need you to think your way through this. I'm going to need you to be able to express yourself and talk, but think. And I think thinking and processing are 2 of the greatest problems that we have today. And so when you're having these conversations, they literally can't even articulate what the issues are because we have not created spaces to force them to think.
Yeah.
And process. And that just, to me, and I think we see it in classrooms. I see it all the time. Right, interns think.
Putting them on blast.
What? Oh, they are, all 5 of them know. Yeah. Oh, they know. They know. Oh, trust me. Oh, trust me. They know. Again, so we have think sessions. I ain't giving you the answer. You got to think. But again, this is something that, for me, I did this with my nieces when they were early. No, I'm not giving you the answer.
Yeah, I'm not. But when we're talking about the Black and brown community, a lot of these kids or youth, your young adults, can't think because their parents can't think. And when you look at the causes to inability to think, these parents are under a lot of chronic stress. They're dealing with depression and anxiety. There's even what I'm seeing, undiagnosed learning differences. Mm-hmm. So, their trauma responses freeze, disassociate. So no, they're not thinking. There's a cognitive fog. There's a mental shutdown. There's disorganized thoughts. So how are they going to teach their children to think when these parents can't think, but they're the same parents that is either negative or positive, over pressure to perform. Yep. The invalidation part that comes with, hey, telling your kids, hey, get over it, or you're being dramatic. There's no room for failure. I'm quick to tell my daughter, it's okay if you fail, but what we gonna do about it to recover? A lot of these parents, because they are stressed, they're creating adults who are emotionally unavailable. Why? Because their parents are unavailable. Parents aren't listening. They're distracted. They're dismissive. The parents are on social media. Then you have just the toxic criticism. I hear so many parents, they're yelling, they're cussing. I'm gonna threaten you with punishment. That didn't go on in my household. I did really well with my kids. So when I look at her and I look at some of the kids that may come to our practice, or when I talk to parents to kind of walk them through things, I'm like, you guys aren't even talking about mental health. They're ignoring the signs and refusing help. It's like, what are we doing here?
Indeed. Doc, what's your website if people want to reach out to you?
ttmcounseling.com.
All right. Dr. Tatiana Melendez, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.